How's it? Today is Wednesday, September 1st. It's the first of the month, and I'm just doing some clean and jerk stuff today. Um, Trying to extend from last week, which was like a few 2+1s for power clean and power jerk at 240 and then a few at 250. Today I went to 245 and 255, and none of them were particularly great. For some reason, last week, I mentioned it in the video last week. Last week was very, very good. All of my powers were surprisingly high, and so with that in mind, it was like, oh, okay, like I could probably do a little bit more than what I did or what I was planning to do today. But when I got into the gym, it kind of didn't feel super great. Um, I tried my best to warm up the same way that I did on last week, Wednesday, but it just didn't pan out well. And it's weird to think about because last week Wednesday was when I moved, so I was awake for a while, and doing a lot of manual labor. So I basically had to pick up my bed and dresser and table and all of these things, right, and move it back and forth between my new place and my old place. And then I went into the gym at like 5:30. I don't even know what time it was. It was like right when it was really busy, basically. And everything just moved so fast. But today it was like a normal morning session. Um, Again, nothing felt super great. It just was like I don't know, man. Like I don't know. Maybe the AM versus PM thing has been a big contributing factor to that, but I'm not sure. So here I am at my first set. First rep, not super bad, but relative to last week, that single rep was the every rep I did last week was better than that single rep, and this is my first one, the one I'm the most fresh with, and the one that I um, have the most energy for. So on all of these notes here, I do write fail because I end up actually doing a full clean for my second attempt, but I believe all of the jerks are. Oh, okay, I failed on that jerk too. I didn't even remember that. But going back to what I was mentioning was that when it says fail here, it's sort of the intention behind the second rep, not necessarily the height that I catch it at, because I don't think I catch any of the second reps at quote unquote power height. So that's something to be said about how poorly I executed today. Like that was definitely below power, but I also didn't dip or like immediately drop straight down. And that's a sort of when I don't feel like I'm gonna be able to get the weight, that's what's gonna happen. Which basically means I've given up before I give myself a chance. And I talk about this a lot to Juan. It's like don't allow yourself to give up before you have given yourself a proper opportunity to make the lift. And that's the reason, one of the reasons why even though I don't, or a lot of times it feels like I'm unable to do the jerk for a lift, I will always try it. Just because, what happens if I do make the lift? Like, oh, like, that's a huge confidence builder as far as the technique goes. Like, how tired I am in that one moment is irrelevant. I mean, oftentimes I end up missing those lifts, but there are occasions when I do make the lift. And those are the ones that are important for comfortability, on the platform and whatnot. Here is my first set at 255. That was definitely a power on the first rep, but the second rep was definitely a, a full clean. Like I completely dive all the way down, and you can see here. Yeah, I don't even try. Um, which kind of brings me back to that first point that I was making, that just like I need to give myself the opportunity, and that's why I think noting these as fails, whereas the other ones not as fails, is important for thinking about where I am. You know, um, I'm not happy with that, but the same thing happens here. I don't think that any of the jerks, except that first one where I actually did miss, were particularly difficult. My technique wasn't normally as snappy, or isn't norm wasn't normally as snappy as it normally is, and I think that contributes a lot as to why some of them look really soft or really slow. But overall, like the effort I put into them is more than enough to make the lift, if that makes sense. Even here. And then after that, I just go up to a set of 3 for the clean deadlifts. Nothing too spectacular about these. Just trying to maintain proper position from the ground. Some of these do not look like proper position. uh, so I guess next week I just need to make sure that I'm not sloppy here. I think if there's one thing that I am, is I'm not sloppy. There are things that I am not great at, but I typically do not do things lazily. I guess is another way to put it. But yeah, just 325, which is, I believe, 10 pounds up from last week. I think that these are actually a lot harder than the way I, like, when I'm doing them, they're a lot harder than how I think about them when I'm not doing them. So like before I got to doing these clean deadlifts today, it was just like, oh yeah, like 325 is not too hard. And then when I do the 325, which is right here, doesn't doesn't give me super great confidence about my lifting. And then afterwards, it's like, okay, yeah, that 325 was not so bad, you know, um, which is kind of a weird place to be in. After that, I decided to do some bent over rows because I didn't want to vacate my spot on the platform. So I ended up doing just bent over rows 5 pounds heavier than I did last week. And yeah, that's what I did for my rowing motion. Then I did some overhead walks, as well as presses, like single arm overhead press, just to get my shoulders going. Yeah, so 240 here. I was actually very surprised that that set went by so quickly. I was talking to Juwan. I was like, "Oh, was that 5?" I don't remember because it just happened so fast. And um, yeah, I guess it was 5. I'm not swinging as much as I think I am, and that's obviously a positive sign. But my dumbbell overhead walks, I wasn't able to do them last week because the gym was super crowded. So I ended up doing just overhead holds last week. So I'm jumping back on today with 80s. I think 2 weeks ago I did 75. So doing 80 today is just the progression as scheduled. Well, I guess progression as scheduled would be 85 today, but you know, whatever. Um, but yeah, today was all right. It wasn't the best, and I learned from these experiences a lot too. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Shoots.